Hello everyone. As part of my minimal API investigation, I wanted to see if we could run some code before the endpoint handler is executed. Now we've got this endpoint, we've got an ID that we're passing in as part of the parameter, and as part of the response we're returning an ID and a name. Now if we want to run code before the endpoint handler, what we can do is we can call the add endpoint filter, and we need to pass in some parameters. So we pass in the invocation context and also next. Now what I want to do is if the ID is bigger than 9, I want to return a not found and not run the endpoint handler. I call the invocation context and then I pass in the get argument. I need to pass in a generic type. Because the parameter is an integer, that's what I pass in there. I also need to pass in the index number of the parameter. There's only one in there, so the index number is going to be 0. Now I want to say if the ID is bigger than 9, I just want to return a typed results.notfound response. So if it gets to there, it will not execute this code up here. Now to run the endpoint handler, what I need to do is I need to return the next invocation context. And by doing that, it will go and execute this code up here. So I'm going to put a breakpoint on the endpoint filter so we can see the filter being run before the handler. We're now going to test the request. We're going to put in an ID of 7. We go back, so it's caught our breakpoint. You can see the ID is 7. So we'd expect it to call this code here and return a response of ID of 7 and name of my product, which it's done. Let's now change the request. Let's put the ID in as 16. So again, it's going through our endpoint filter. And if the ID is bigger than 16, we'd expect it to return a not found response. And that's what it's done. I found it a lot easier to set up filters in minimal APIs than I did with controllers. This is what you need to do with filters in controllers. You need to set up a class and it needs to implement the iAsync action filter. That means that you need to provide this method as part of the class. We need to get the argument out of the context and specify if the ID is bigger than 9, return a not found object result, otherwise await the next call. In the controller, you have to specify it as part of the attribute. So you've got a service filter attribute that you need to specify. And then within that, you need to specify the type of the filter so you can use it within that endpoint. And that's not all. In the Program.cs file, you need to register the filter as part of dependency injection. Lots to remember if you're using filters with controllers. But I found another cool feature with minimal API filters. You can add extra filters. Before we have a look at that, remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a like for the video. We're going to make some modifications to our minimal API endpoint. So we're going to pass in an extra parameter of name. Now if we want to add an extra endpoint filter, we simply just call the add endpoint filter again, like so. So we can copy and paste the parameters that we need to pass in. And we're going to write some additional logic. So this time we're going to get the name parameter. So we call the invocation context the get argument. Because the argument is a string, we need to change that to a string. And because it's the second parameter, the index number of the argument is going to be 1. So we're going to need to specify that. And we're going to say if the name does not equal my product, we are going to return a typed results not found response. Otherwise, we're going to run the next step in the pipeline. So this will be called first, and then it runs the next step being this endpoint filter here. And then it will execute that. And the next step after that is going to be the endpoint handler. Let's add some breakpoints in the endpoint filters. So we'll add some in the first endpoint filter, and we'll do the same for the second as well. And then we'll test it to see how it works. We'll start by specifying an ID that's bigger than 9, so we'll specify 11. We'll put anything in for the name. Now because the ID is bigger than 9, it will return a not found response and it won't run the second endpoint filter. That's what's happening. Let's now change that to an ID of 8 and execute the endpoint again. So it's completed the endpoint filter and it's going to run the next step in the pipeline, which will be our second endpoint filter. But the name doesn't equal my product, so it returns a not found response. Let's now change the name to my product. It completes the first endpoint filter, runs the next step. The name is my product, so it runs the next step. and returns our endpoint handler response. You can try the examples in this tutorial when you download the code example at roundthecode.com/examples. There's also a link for it in the YouTube video description. So far, we've run code before the endpoint handler is executed, but can we do it after? What I want to do is I want to time how long the endpoint filters take to execute. I'm going to create a new instance of the stopwatch, and then I'm going to start it. Now at this point we're returning the next step in the pipeline. We need to store that in a variable and return it further down. So everything after this code is after the endpoint handler has been executed. This is where we want to stop the stopwatch, and we want to output the time to the console application. So we'll say the first endpoint filter has been executed in the number of seconds as part of the first parameter. And we'll put that in here. So it's stopwatch.elapse.total seconds to string, and we'll output it to 6 decimal places. And we're going to do the same for the second endpoint filter as well. So we'll add the stopwatch, store the next result in a variable, we'll output it to the console application and return the result after we've done that. Let's test that out. So it's returned a response. Let's have a look at the console application. So interestingly, it's outputted the second endpoint filter's time before the first one. And the reason being is that it does it in reverse order. So once it gets a result from the endpoint handler, it will come back to the second endpoint filter, run the code that's in here, and then return the result, which will then return a result for the first endpoint filter, run that code, and then return the result. It's a very similar behavior to how middleware works. Looking at my Program.cs file, there is a lot of code in here that has been added to it. One makes me wonder if I should go back to using controllers, but then I found out that you can add filters to separate classes. And the way that we do that is we implement the iEndpointFilter interface, which provides us with this method. What we can do is we'll go to the first endpoint filter, and we're going to remove the code from Program.cs, and we're going to move it into this method as part of this class. Also do the same for the second one. So remove it out of Program.cs into this method. We now need to call that class as part of the endpoint filter. All we need to do is to provide the class name, and we'll do the same for the second one as well. And we'll try it out and make sure it still works. We run the endpoint, we're getting a successful response. If we have a look in the console application, it's outputted our times from the endpoint filters. So far in my minimal API journey, I found it quite similar to controllers, whether that's creating routes, adding parameters, or returning responses. But filters is a game changer, and it's swaying me in the direction of using minimal APIs. If you want to see what I find out next about minimal APIs, watch this video. To download the code example for this tutorial, go to roundthecode.com/examples. There's also a link for it in the YouTube video description. Leave any comments that you have about filters in minimal APIs, and I'll see you on the next video.